What's up everyone, Michael here with an impressions review of Blood Alloy Reborn, an action kind of score attack game. I thought it was going to be a Metroidvania game, but it ended up not being, which is a little unfortunate and disappointing, but regardless, it's not a bad thing, it's just a different game. Anyway, so, this is a game where you run around as a chick with a gun and a sword and you kill things for a score multiplier. There's a bunch of robots and things like that, and there's different mechanics that we will cover in this video. Anyway, so here we are at the main menu. So, you're probably thinking, this looks like a mess, and you would be correct. The UI in this game is laughably terrible, so it's just terrible. I'll talk more about it when I talk about performance and stuff like that. But regardless, let's go ahead and take a look at the options. Now, there is a launcher before you start the game. It runs in Unity, so it uses the general Unity launcher. It has presets, but the presets do nothing but make the sprites look terrible. So I put it on Fantastic, and it seems to look the best that way. It doesn't compress anything, and so that's kind of what I stuck with. But in game, you also have key rebindings in that launcher as well. Anyways, in game, you get your options for your music, sound effects, volume, controller type. It does support gamepads, and it says to use the Xbox, or it says to use gamepad number 2. Oh, I can't actually access this option anymore. My enter key is not working. It's not letting me change it anymore. All right, so I may as well cover this now. The UI will randomly break, and to fix it, I will have to reboot the game. Hopefully, I can actually start up a level without rebooting my game. We will see in a moment. So that is a thing. Like I said, the UI for this game is absolutely terrible. Or the menus, I should say. Not the UI. The UI is fine. The menus are terrible in their design and their just functionality, unfortunately. Starting off pretty negative, but not everything's negative, so keep going. But yeah, so Xbox One controller won't actually work at all for me. I don't know why. I picked gamepad number 2 and it didn't work, so I can't actually speak on how gamepad controls work, but it works fine with keyboard and mouse, so that's fine. You get screen shake. I had to turn it off on high, which was default, and I turned it down to medium. Seems to be fine in medium. I think low just kind of turns it off. And then you get lock mouse cursor to screen, which you can turn on or off, and I'm using a single monitor, so I don't have to worry about that. Anyways, that is the options. So quite nice that it has audio sliders, because that would, be a good thing. But there is a problem with the audio to where sometimes when I start the game, the audio doesn't work. And if I change the sliders, the audio turns off. I have no idea why. I can't tell you. So that's just the thing that has to deal with. And I just restart the game. And then it seems fine after that. And it, takes into account the options that I set. So if you change the audio options and your audio disappears, just restart your game. Annoying, but it is a thing. Anyways, let's go ahead and go into the game. Now, there is a tutorial, and the UI is broken. Alright, I'm back, and I got to the level select, and now it is actually letting me pick the level. Okay, so we're going into level. There's only 3 levels, and you unlock them as you level up your character. So you level up through getting scored, and unlocks new weapons and stuff like that. I'll talk about equipment in a little bit. Anyway, so here's the game. You start off as this chick, and you got a gun, and you have a sword. And you go around, and you destroy endless waves of robots, and once you kill a certain amount of robots, or get a certain amount of score, I don't really know exactly how it works, a random boss appears, which is kind of nice. So, main mechanics of the character. So you have your gun, you can shoot it, you can charge it. You can actually charge it up for quite a long time. Let's see if I can get it. Now, if you jump, it actually gets rid of the charge, so I'm trying to hold down and not get hit, because that'll also uncharge it. Is it not going to let me do the bursty thing? Okay, whatever. You're supposed to be able to charge it and use a laser. It seems like this game, once again, kind of starting off negative, and I apologize for that. The game has some weird issues to where things don't work as they're, supposed to be intended. But normally, when I hold down the button for long enough, it actually charges up a giant laser and then shoots a laser. Maybe I need a multiplier for it or something like that, and the game just didn't explain that to me, which is unfortunate. This game does not explain things very well. Now, there is a tutorial that does explain the core mechanics, but let's go ahead and go over them anyways, because the tutorial actually skips quite a few of those as well. So you're going to be running around, you get your gun, you shoot those. Doesn't use energy. In your top left, you will see you'll have your health bar, which I have actually gotten to hit quite a bit. I'm not doing too well in this one. And then you have your energy bar. Now, the gun doesn't use energy at all, so this is going to be what you're using when you're out of energy. But you can dash by holding down shift, and you can actually dash on walls. You can dash on anything, really. Dodge the electric things, though, because they will kill you. And you can dodge through enemies as well, and it will damage them, except for these electric things. Those things will just straight up murder your face. And I died. Okay, and I'm back. Sorry about that. There's a long little endgame thing we'll see after this. Anyway, so, core mechanics, so you got your gun that doesn't use energy, but you do have a dash which uses some energy, and you can dash through certain enemies. Some enemies will hurt you, such as the electric things I was showing a little bit earlier. You can double jump, and so you can also use your sword. And this is actually where the interesting mechanic comes in. because you can use your sword to kind of dash between enemies and stay in the air for a fairly long time. And I believe when you destroy enemies, you can actually combo them together at reduced cost, which means that you can actually stay in the air for quite a long time, and you can combo things together, which is super, super awesome. I actually like the melee combat, and I wish the melee combat was a little bit more complex than it is, because it is mostly just hold a direction and click there. You also have a special move. If you hit the middle mouse button, you just do that big dash thing. It uses pretty much all of your power, but that is a really powerful move. It is really useful on turrets and stuff like that. And then you also have the dash move. If you are dashing or holding down shift and you click, you also get to use your secondary weapon, which for me is homing missiles right now. I can actually switch it in the equipment. Now I also got to a 10 times multiplier, which when you destroy enemies, you get a multiplier. And when you get 10 times multiplier, it spawns a like capture drone thing, and you have to go and save the guy, and then that will heal you. So if we go over here, I'm just getting hit a bunch because I don't really care that much. There we go. Just save him. And then we'll drop down and grab him, and then he will heal us, which is awesome. And that is actually how you kind of keep sustaining. So what you want to do is you want to get to a 10 times multiplier, and then get healed, and then repeat. That's kind of the thing. So in the top right, you also have your combo meter, and then you have a, I guess, skill meter. The game didn't really describe it very well, which is actually going to be another complaint of the game, is that the game does a very poor job of explaining the mechanics. It's a little unfortunate. And it's probably going to make it so that I actually end up missing certain things. But anyway, so there's your combo one, which, you know, you get combo when you destroy an enemy or destroy, you know, certain objects and stuff like that. Which, once that gets to 10, you get this little guy to save. And then the other one is your style. And I think that increases your attack power and the damage that you do. I don't really know for sure, but I think that is a thing. And then basically from here on out, when you're going around, you're going to be destroying a bunch of ships, and it gets progressively more difficult as you progress. And so they send out enemies with more health, more damage, and just more in general, and more difficult types of enemies. And the levels actually have bosses as well. As in, once you kind of get to a certain point, I don't know exactly what determines it, so I can't really speak on it too much, but once you get far enough, it will actually spawn a boss, which has a bunch of health and a bunch of damage and turrets and stuff like that. And it is fairly difficult. And I believe there's only one boss per level, and so it's not like you're going to beat one boss and then keep going. But you can beat the boss multiple times, and so you'll beat it and then keep going and kind of get higher and higher. And that's kind of the point of the game, is getting the highest multiplier you can without getting your face destroyed, which is actually quite easy. You take a lot of damage in this game, and the game is actually fairly difficult. But this is where I kind of get into the major complaints of the game. The controls are not particularly great, and my main complaint is the combination of auto-targeting with the melee, as in when I hold a direction, it's automatically going to seek an enemy within that direction, which sounds great in theory. But the movement doesn't have, and now we're at the game over screen. This is what I was going through earlier. Oh God, I hate that sound too. Once again, the UI is fairly terrible and offset for some reason. I don't know if this is a bug. It could be just a bug, but either way, the graphics do not look proper. They look improper. They do not look good. But anyway, so there's no invincibility frames, and I'm going to go ahead and click on equipment, which actually should say main menu because it takes you back to the main menu. Whatever, we'll talk about equipment in a little bit. But yeah, there's no invincibility frames within the dashes or any of the sliding or anything like that. You can get going pretty quick, and you can destroy a lot of enemies quickly. But the problem is the auto-targeting and the, just the quick movement and the smaller screen areas. And if it was zoomed out a little bit farther, maybe it would be a little bit more excusable, but it's not. You end up taking a lot of damage without really having much control over it. So I actually find that I'm not using the dash too much. And also, to be able to use your secondary weapon, which was the homing missiles, I can go ahead and switch over here. I can actually go, well, actually it was default 6 homing tracers. So there were tracers, and then there's slow moving missiles, and then plasma shield. I like plasma shield. I haven't actually gotten new pistols yet because I have to get to level 8. Maybe we'll do that in this video. And then you get central cores, which add health bonuses and stuff like that. And you get these as you level. You level through getting score, and there's little challenges that you can also complete. So if I go to the main menu, you can see down in the bottom left, you get challenges, and I'm currently level 7. This UI is abhorrent, unfortunately. But yeah, and then also when you're dashing, you have to hold down shift and click to use your secondary, but that also dashes, which means to use my secondary, I have to dash, which would be fine if it actually used the dash, but mechanically it doesn't, and you can activate it if you jump in the air and hold shift and then click, it uses it. But if you're on the ground, it makes you dash, because if you click shift, it dashes. Very, very huge oversight by the developer. Hopefully they can add key rebindings for that. And for some reason, the shift key and the, the switch, I guess, weapon key to use the special seem to be the same key, because when I changed it in the Unity launcher, it just did problems. And I just unlocked jungle. Sweet. So I can see jungle. There's only 3 stages, so the content's a little bit limited, which once again brings me into the more negative stuff. Now, I like the art style. Let's talk about positive stuff. I like the art style. And the music is fairly decent as well. It's not really fitting, as in the game just kind of throws random music out. And it's like, oh, we have a level, let's just throw music into it. And so it just throws a random track, and you can actually unlock more tracks by leveling up. It seems like you're supposed to be able to select new tracks, because there is a song option inside the equipment screen, but it doesn't actually like let you select it, which is strange. Once again, the UI it's broken, just outright broken. I don't even want to say it's just bad, it's just broken. Now, one thing I will say about the levels is the levels are fairly interesting as well, as in they give you a lot of platforms. They're nothing spectacular. It's not like, brain grinding design or anything, but they're interesting, as in it provides enough platforms that you can jump around and you can do a lot of platforming stuff, and you can combo between enemies quite decently. And the equipment variety, for what there is, even though it's limited, is nice as well. So when I'm using different abilities, such as, if it'll let me use it, I think I need to get combo for it. Let's go. There we go. There we go. So yeah, so this one is actually a little shield thing, and it has little 3 orbs, and I can actually shoot the orbs as well if I charge up and fire. There we go. And then it'll actually fire the actual whole shield thing, which is actually pretty cool. And the homing missiles also function slightly different as well. So that is kind of the positive, and I do like the melee combat, as I said before. The melee combat is actually very, very fluid, except for the fact that it runs you into enemies. I wish that they would have focused a little bit more on the melee combat. Oh, my 10 times multiplier disappeared, so I think this guy's going to end up dying. Yep, there he goes. So if you actually lose your multiplier, he ends up dying. Actually, no, I saved him. Sweet. So I guess I was able to get it back to a 10 times multiplier before it canceled it. Sweet. But if you do lose your multiplier, you do lose the guy, and he ends up dying and makes a scream, which is quite unfortunate. So graphics are great. The animations are not particularly amazing. In screenshots, it looks a lot better, but in motion, they're very, very low frames, and some of them are very juddery, and they just kind of like instantly move and stuff like that. But it's passable nonetheless, and the art style is quite nice as well. Maybe there's some dissonance between the character and the environment. Like this one, the character really doesn't fit with the environment very well, and they kind of float, as you can see on the ground there. So that's just a little bit of a polish thing that they're kind of lacking, which once again brings me back into the negative stuff. Now, content-wise, the game does not have a lot of content. And I feel like a big complaint that a lot of people have been having, and justifiably, is that the game doesn't feature enough content for the asking price, which I think it's $15. I'll be honest, I didn't check because for some reason Steam wasn't showing me the price. I don't know why. But regardless, people are complaining that it's not enough content for the price. And I would, although I haven't gone through all the content, I would kind of argue with the same point, as in what they have here, the price is that of something like a Metrovania game, as in that's kind of what I expected. I was like, oh yeah, that's like the price of a Metrovania game and all that, so that's the perfect setup for something that would be a Metrovania game. Unfortunately, it's not that. It is a score attack game, and I wish that they would have been a little bit more clear on that within their description of the game. So maybe they'll fix that in the future. Maybe before I did this recording, they ended up fixing it or something like that. Regardless, when I looked at it, it mostly said, oh, it's a fast-paced combat, action game, which admittingly, that doesn't say Metrovania, but it also doesn't say that it's a score attack game. So that is a little bit of a thing to matter. And the game is generally lacking in content, and not only the lack of content, I would be fine with a lower amount of content. Obviously, the price would be hard to justify, but I would be fine with a lack of content if the content was polished. The main problem with the game right now is it's just not polished in any way, shape, or form. The combat is all right. It's not great, it's not amazing, it's all right. And I feel like it could be a lot better. And I feel like the game is just unfinished, just in general. And the game is officially released. And there's some music now. The music just got really, really loud for no reason. Once again, the sound effects are also very varied in their volume, which goes back into the polish statement. As in the game it feels unpolished in every aspect, which is a little bit unfortunate. You know, obviously I like every game to be great, and this one just doesn't have the polish for it, so I'm kind of in a state to where I'm not recommending it, like, in any way, shape, or form, because it's not there. Now, if the developer patches it and fixes all these issues I'm having, or maybe it's on my end, maybe, you know, something's up with my update service or something like that, I don't know, then, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, and if you really like this type of arcade action kind of score attack game, maybe it would be for you, because these types of games are actually fairly rare, as in the kind of fast-paced action score attack games. While score attack games are fairly common, the 2D platformer ones, not so much. Those are kind of rare, aside from like roguelikes, which are quite popular right now. But overall, I don't really recommend this one unless it's really, really something that you're looking into. Like, unless you're like, oh, this is like the perfect game for me, and you're like totally want to try it out and all that, then maybe. I mean, it's not the worst game I've ever played, but it is a state to where I just haven't really enjoyed it all too much, which is unfortunate. And that's also why I kind of didn't get very high. And the game performs well, like that's a plus side, but overall it doesn't matter when it's not polished. So yeah, I'm gonna kind of stop ragging on the game. It's not terrible. If this is your type of game, it is something you could look into. But overall, for the general purpose of, you know, videos, the polish just isn't there, especially for me. You know, fading through half of the land, just not falling into walls, you know, auto dashes into enemies without any invincibility frames. And you could argue that's a skill element, but at the same time, if it's uncontrollable, is it? I mean, it just kind of goes into this point of, oh, I shouldn't use the dash ability, which seems to defeat the purpose of the whole combo mechanic. And yeah. Anyways, I'm not enjoying this one, but maybe you will. Maybe, you know, that's just my opinions going through and just, you know, being a little bit harsher than it should. Or, you know, maybe I'm just looking at the game wrong, you know, something like that. I could be, you know, maybe it's just not my type of game. Maybe I'm not the target audience, but at the same time, I feel like that polish is really what's tearing it apart. So anyways, this has been Michael with an impressions review of Blood Alloy Reborn. It's alright, I guess. Like, I'm gonna be a little bit admitting, it's alright. It's not amazing, it's lacking a lot of polish, but if this is your jam, maybe. I mean, I feel like there's other games for the price point that you could end up buying instead, and I feel like that would be a better, you know, opportunity. And there's a lot of fast-paced 2D action games that you can actually pick up from, you know, a big catalog over a long period of time. So, you know, while I do like the melee combat and stuff like that, and that's what really feels original, is the melee combat, it's not polished and it's not in-depth enough to really feel great. So yeah, and the UI being completely broken really kills the game for me. So yeah, anyways, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Leave some comments on the game. Maybe the game gets updated and you watch this video and you're like, whoa, man, that's not what I saw. And, you know, you can update that and be like, hey, the developer fixed this and fixed that. Or maybe there's something I'm missing, you know, and just, you know, let me know. Because I never assume games are going to be broken. And so I always assume, like, oh, maybe it's on my end somewhere. Maybe something I'm doing is wrong. But I don't know. Sometimes games just don't work as they should. Sometimes quality control doesn't get to where it should be. But anyways, leave some comments, like, comment, and subscribe, and stuff like that. And I will see you guys in the next video.